And we're going to kick things off, as always, with the most important part, which is the Indie of the Week. And this week we're going all Tom Hanks. We're going to make Sweet Sweet Loving to a football called Wilson.
Well said.
So we're going to be checking out
the harshest breakup in cinematic history.
Castaway Arts, which is Australian. As the best Australian thing you'll ever hear.
Castaways. Yeah.
So yes. Where did you think I was going? Do you think it was Wilson Arts?
No, I was going to say Castaway, Prisoners. What, you know?
Oh,
I thought you were going to tell me Tom Hanks was one of us.
No, Tom Hanks is not one of us. Tom Hanks wastes his time with manual typewriters.
Oh, he's the different type of nerd.
Just the worst. Anyway, so it's a 28mm historic range. And before we get into it properly, I would just very briefly want to go to this page because somebody on the internet has done this, and forever will I love them. For this is a size comparison. And when people get historics, they always go, but it says it's 28mm, but is it? Minifigs, we're looking at you. So right slap bang in the center, you can see Castaway is there. Boosh. And how it compares to the sort of the standard. So bigger than Foundry, which makes sense because Foundry are one of the smaller in the 28mm. Looks like it would match up very well with Redoubt and Honourable Lead boiler suit, which means it's probably a little bit shorter than the Perrys, although they should match in with Eagles of Empire, which might be handy if they have a Franco-Prussian range. Who knows? Who knows? I know, and they do. So
because Gerry owns everything.
So we'll pop right into the online store. The painting, actually, well, I'll throw out the painting guides because they are very simple painting guides. They are just old school. If you want to paint your biblical or your old kingdom, it's just a brief blurb on sort of standard colors you should be using. And it's up to you then to work out what a medium blue is from your collection. Is it actually a medium blue, or is it called some sort of terrible name? Like Bluey Orco Moonlight Shadow? Who knows? Anyway, painting guides, very basic. Online store, off we go, because this is the meat and or potatoes, and it's a big one, as you can see. Everything from Assyrians to Zulus and all points in between. Mostly focusing on biblical and colonial forces.
Right. Okay.
Although there are some in there that sort of stray beyond there. So you can do like your Boxer Rebellion or your Franco-Prussian War. Look, Franco-Prussian War. I'm going to start off with some of the more fun things because everybody likes camels. Well, I like camels, and therefore that is the most important thing. So the Midnight Nomads, if you fancy doing a bit of the old biblical. And biblical is one of those, I know Warren is dead keen on it, but Warren's dead keen on it because he wants to put 15-foot tall Nephilim giants in things, as opposed to just playing biblical wars, which are far more interesting. Who knows? Who knows why? But as you can see, there are substantial ranges of individual figures, so they're metal castings. You two can have, look, we had a David and Goliath last week. This one's a much smaller. And I think if you put him up against the other Goliath, that would be a more dramatic representation.
Yeah.
He's cupping his stone there in his sling, including your little cavalry riders, or in this case, camelry. As we all know, I love my camels. So, there we go. Look at them. Majestic creatures. The boats of the desert, as they call them, Jam. Boats. That's just there to annoy one of our community members.
Are you going to say that he's going to get the hump?
Yo! Awesome.
Bad, Ben. Bad.
Oh, no, 100% go with that, Ben. 100%. Baggage and transport's also very good, because these are things that are handy for all sorts of games, not just your, obviously, massed combat games. Generally have baggage trains and stuff, and if you capture the baggage train of your opponent, then it's generally game over. But beyond that, actually getting your hands on nice little sort of laden asses to have in the background. And it's got short enough hair on it. You could paint that like a zebra if you wanted, which would be fancy.
I've tamed a zebra.
Yeah. If you're going to be playing like a fantasy game, why does your baggage train always have to be horses?
It's very true. Yeah.
Because there's an awful lot you can do with that. The Colonial Camel Ambulance is great. If you've never seen one of these.
Colonial Camel Ambulance. Wow.
So,
what a concept.
So you know how you would have a pannier on either side of like a bike or or an animal?
Yeah.
So they sit in little chairs either side, and then the stretcher goes from one side to the other. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Well, that's one way of getting your wounded out of the desert, I suppose. So,
yep.
Yeah.
I mean, it really makes me. I've got 1898's French Foreign Legion, and then I've got a load of plastics from Wargames Atlantic. Technically, they're Afghans, but I reckon with some weapon swaps, they could become Berbers in very, very short amount of time. So just adding in some camelry and other bits and pieces, I could do some quite nice scenarios for Blood and Steel, maybe, or something of its ilk.
I was going to say, with so obviously Silver Bayonet's in Egypt at the moment, so that's a good option. Yeah.
Yes, it is.
And also another one of McCullough's games, Rangers of Shadow Deep, has an entire storyline set in the desert as well. So you could use these for that. Very cool if you wanted to go down the slightly more horror fantasy range.
You're on the wrong side of the river. Anyway, they're really nice. A friend of ours, Paul Beckus, who unfortunately passed away last year, did because he's Australian himself, he did a Australian World War II force for bolt action, and his objective markers were all camels and little oases.
That's cool.
Oasi. Yeah. So even things like that, which I would ordinarily have not thought of, but obviously with his Anzac force in the Western Desert, and then having all these very themed desert objectives was great. Anyway, so that's your little sort of baggage and transport. And then after that, we can just get into some of the meat and potatoes. So French Colonial is, as I was saying, the sort of one of the main two features is the colonial stuff. So you can have your Senegalese with their lovely little fezzes and big, massive knives. I was going to say something else there, but I can't.
I like that the majority of the figures look to be, at least on the troop side of things anyway, look to be sort of one-piece metals. So you just kind of slap them on a base and away you go, really.
One or two piece at most.
Yeah. But, well, it makes life easier for them casting as well. If they're not having to cast umpteen pieces to make one model. Because then if you get a miscast, you've got to recast extra pieces that you don't want or need. And it's just the backside.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Really nice. Yeah. Well detailed as well. Very cool. Yeah.
Oh, yes. They're like horses that you hate. They're not galloping, they're just standing there.
Oh. We're not on parade here.
Yeah, right.
That one's moonwalking. In fact, if you get that one and flick back and forward between them very quickly.
Like a miniature flip book, yeah.
Just do his full course moonwalk.
Yeah.
Billie Jean was not his lover. Yeah. I'll stick with the colonial. We'll take a look at the Indian. Because obviously then...
very nice.
Yeah. The Sikhs are absolutely beautiful. Which means if you want to do things like the Indian Rebellion or the Mutiny, depending what side of the continent you happen to be on, you can do that. And the Sikhs, they were double hard bastards, which is the technical term. I think that one got smaller. How annoyed will Lloyd be if Lloyd was here?
It got further away. It's trying to retreat from you buying it. That's the... the Bengal Lancers have always looked so cool. I love them. Yeah.
There's some Gurkhas as well. He reminds me of Billy Fish. For the kids in the audience, that's another classic
Another callback
reference. The Man Who Would Be King.
Right. Okay. Yeah.
Sean Connery, Michael Caine. They had a little. Don't know if he was actually a Gurkha. I think he was, but they called him Billy Fish. He was their trailblazer up in the mountains.
See, I'll never forget the story of a young fella broke into an old guy's house. Turns out the old guy was a Gurkha, and needless to say, that did not end well for him.
Well,
he
omelette and eggs.
Yeah.
Yep. It's the best way to do it. And then obviously alongside those, you can have your British colonial in a mixture of things. There's a nice officer.
Glorious helmets.
Pething all the way. Absolutely. Oy, oy. There's a drummer. So that must be... The Anglo-Zulu War was, I think, the last time they brought drummer boys, as in children, to a battle. Didn't go well. But it wasn't long after that the drummers themselves were finally sort of relegated. Yeah, 1859. This is a bit.
Realised maybe it wasn't a good idea to bring young children to war.
Oh, I don't think so.
Made enough of them officers, though. But
ensign your way up. It's good. You're Highlanders, bagpiping away. Unfortunately, none of them are doing the Khyber Pass maneuver. We've all seen Carry On Up the Khyber.
Of course.
We all have.
A quick flash.
So your artillery officers and the like as well.
And is it all infantry and cavalry, or is there anything else?
Oh, there's depends on the range in question. So mostly infantry and cavalry. The artillery is kicking around elsewhere. I'll have a quick look at we'll have a look at the Northwest Frontier. So this is your Afghan. This is
right. Okay.
Up in the Silk Road.
Okay.
When the British got absolutely tanked.
The kind of is it the kind of time period that Wargames Atlantic did their plastic range for? Was it? Yes, it was them. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So this was all tribal warfare.
And
was the first sort of, well, it wasn't the first clash, but it was the first time that geographic location became a sort of proxy for European and Russian powers all looking to claim it. Didn't really go well for any of those. Didn't go particularly well for the natives either, but they certainly had a lot more fun than the Europeans and Russians who went down there, who thought they'd have an easy walkover. And then got into the mountain areas and got pasted.
In some ways, good.
Yeah.
Serves them right.
100%.
Yeah. Very nice sculpts as well. Really cool.
Yeah.
Lots of action poses, which is always nice to see. Good for skirmishy style games as well as
as well as massed combat.
Rank and file style ones. Yeah.
You see there's a nice variation in the weaponry and outfitting, I suppose.
Yeah.
You've got your different hill tribes and the like, looking slightly different.
Also good for pulpy stuff as well. Obviously talked about fantasy with some things, historical, but also pulpy adventures. Could fit these in quite nicely. So
you want to have them running in like thuggies and stuff. Actually, I think we've got some Tuaregs and Arabs down the bottom that would do the job there as well. Gladiators, very small amount of gladiators, but you don't really need a huge amount of gladiators for gladiatorial combat games.
Very true. Yeah,
I need a huge amount of gladiators because I want to do the Third Servile War, but that's something between me and Hudson. And at some point, he will crack and give me what I want. Hi, Hudson. Love you.
Bring forth the gladiators. Yeah. Very nice, though. Good stuff. Especially if you're, maybe playing Gangs of Rome at the moment. Want to throw in some gladiators that you've press ganged. Well, I mean, probably didn't need to press gang them, but they didn't have a choice. Yeah, but
you two can come and join us.
I own you.
We'll give you some money.
Yeah. Set them out on the streets and let them kick the ass of some mobsters or something. Very cool.
Yeah. If I go down there's a French Foreign Legion, and there's the Arabs and Berbers they'll be fighting against.
Ooh.
So again, these are the proper ones, your nomadic horsemen and camels, including people with those lovely Giselle rifles. They're hand-me-down.
Yes. I love those.
Mm-hmm.
Mix them in with the stuff from 1898, could you? Miniatures, their stuff.
Yeah. Oh, spot on for this. Yep. Exact same period. Get some.
I mean, the selection of different miniatures is really good.
I like this guy who's just about to absolutely spear somebody. I imagine they're on the ground and he's just going, bye. There's a little coup de grace for you, my son. Get out of my country. And then they all
the age of man is over.
Then they
That's
all
what
call
most of the locals saying everywhere.
That's them using a thumper to summon Shai Hulud, who will cleanse the world with its passing.
Cannons? No, Sandworm.
Shai Hulud. Again, your different tribal types as well are good. Nice little.
Not too expensive either. I mean, obviously, it's all in Australian dollars.
Australian dollars.
But that makes it even cheaper, Ben.
Cheaper than US
until
dollars.
you factor in shipping. But other than that,
I suppose if you buy a lot of metal, it's going to be weighty.
Yeah.
Look at the sweet, sweet camels. That camel's getting up a bit of speed, Ben. Once it starts going, and the knees are flapping everywhere, it's not stopping anytime soon. It's
almost a canter.
Careening through people.
Yeah. Canter into a gallop, possibly.
Where are we? We'll have a look at the Hebrews and Philistines. Because obviously this is several biblical armies in there. It's there. Obviously a nice little chariot, which the Israeli couldn't stop. Because as we learned from the Bible, they had iron chariots, and God could not cope with iron chariots. So God must be some sort of magnet.
I mean, isn't it always that iron stops magic?
Yeah, exactly.
Could be that. You two can be stabbed up by Philistine infantry.
The poses are good for ranking a lot of those up, which I think is good.
Yeah. I mean, if you're going to be playing something like L'Art de la Guerre or Hail Caesar or that sort of thing.
They actually do a Goliath.
Oh, yeah. Look, he's a big one. Hello. He's got a wicked moustache.
47 millimeters tall. Very good.
Huge.
Yeah.
Almost twice the size of a tiny person. But yeah, you're mostly going to be basing on sort of maybe 2x2 or 3x2 sort of mini bases for a lot of ancient games and that sort of thing. I mean, you could do them just on standard 20 mil squares and then rank them whatever way you want on movement trace. That's those, and then the Hebrews up against them. The Israelites. It's good. It's good times.
I like the throwing javelin pose as well. That's a really nice one with it, like proper.
This one, the proper Havachi.
Yes.
Well, what else would you do if you see somebody coming careening towards you in an iron chariot? You wing your stick at them from a distance, and then you hope you don't get run over. That's what we do.
Dynamism in your skirmishes. Always good to see.
So they have, like I say, a substantial amount of stuff based mostly colonial and
biblical.
There is the Franco-Prussian War bits and pieces in there as well. So if you were watching the Eagles of Empire stuff a few weeks ago, there are alternatives in there. There's our Frenchies. Other thing I want to point out was they do rule sets.
Oh, okay.
All right.
Now, we don't often talk about rules. These have mostly come via the medium of one man, occasionally with additional help. So Larry V. Brom So, Sword
Good
and
name.
Gall.
Mm-hmm.
Being a set of playable, entertaining, and enjoyable skirmish-level wargame rules that you can recreate the excitement and savagery of the countless forays, skirmishes, and raids along the frontiers of Rome.
Very nice.
I love that.
It's finally good to see somebody making an enjoyable skirmish game. All the other
Yeah.
ones are so.
Yeah. Or at the very least, promising an enjoyable one.
Now, I will say, no longer with us, these are older rule sets, but they cover all of the periods in here and a few others. So you can get your 1700s swashbuckling adventures with the Sword in the Caribbean as well. Forays along the Spanish Main. I had a look for these. I can't find them online. I did find some reviews now. It's generally only like a handful of reviews, but all of his rule sets sit between sort of 7 and 9 out of 10 on Board Game Geek. So the people who've bought them in the main have enjoyed them. I think there was one that was sitting at 5, but only one review in for it. So I'd be fascinated to see how these go, because obviously they're going to be an older style of rule set, which may not be everybody's cup of tea, but then I don't care about everybody. But I am fascinated by rule sets, and I'm a voracious collector of them, because you never know what you're going to get in there. So
very true. Yeah.
Potentially, if people are looking at this going, "Oh, I fancy doing a bit of biblical, but I don't know where to get a rule set from, or what rule set to use, or whatever it happens to be," bugles, boots, and saddles. I think that is the Indian warfare. So potentially, because I know some guys, Elysium was looking for skirmish Wild West rules recently that would let them do various things up to sort of large Plains War stuff. So potentially these may have merit for people getting in and exploring new periods, and then also a different type of rule set from everybody down the club playing 150 games of bolt action a year or whatever it is. Try something different and see what's in there, because I do like rule sets, because you never know what you're going to find, especially in sort of little bespoke ones like that. And Larry was a Marine in Korea, so I'm curious as to if he has a Korean War or sort of a more modern set in there as well, or if he's stuck solely to the older stuff. He's done about 20 rules before he passed away in 2015, so about 10 years ago. But he was obviously a voracious wargamer in that interim from leaving the Marines and settling in North Carolina. So that's
very nice.
Where I'm at with our Castaway Indie. You can check them out. They're in Australia. And I know we have some Australian viewers who constantly complain about the price of everything shipping into the country. So in this case, look, there's one for you.
You can buy it from down the road.
Yeah, your
right
quid's in on that
doorstep. One. I mean, I imagine you could just nip down, because Australia's probably relatively small, and you could just.
It's only a tiny island, isn't it?
Yeah.
Well, I mean, it's the world's smallest continent.
Sure, I'm willing to believe that, because nobody tells me anything different. Right, I think it's time for some news.